They said we were alone in the universe. They were wrong. When Captain Sarah Chen's ship detected the impossible structure orbiting a distant star, she had no idea that humanity was about to learn the most terrifying secret in the galaxy. A secret that alien civilizations had been hiding for millions of years. What she found inside the Dyson Sphere would change everything we thought we knew about our place in the cosmos. And the clock was already ticking. This is the story of first contact. This is the story of survival. This is the story of why some secrets should stay hidden. The Discovery captain, Sarah Chen, stared at the screen in disbelief. After 3 years traveling through deep space, her crew had finally found something that shouldn't exist. "Run the scan again," she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Lieutenant Marcus Webb didn't argue. He'd already run the scan 5 times. The results were always the same. "Captain, it's still there. The structure is real." "It's massive." Sarah leaned forward in her chair. The image on the main screen showed a star completely surrounded by a shell of technology, a Dyson Sphere, the theoretical megastructure that could capture all the energy from a sun. Humanity had dreamed about building one for centuries, but nobody had the technology or resources to even start. Yet here it was. Already built, already functioning, already ancient. "How old?" Sarah asked. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's lead scientist, pulled up the data on her tablet. Her hands were shaking. "Based on the material decay and stellar evolution, at least 5 million years old, Captain." "Maybe older. 5 million years." Humans had only been walking upright for a fraction of that time. Whoever built this sphere had mastered technology beyond human imagination when humanity's ancestors were still swinging in trees. "Any signs of life?" Sarah asked. Marcus shook his head. "No energy signatures, no radio signals, no heat emissions except from the star itself. If anyone's home, they're not talking." Sarah made her decision. They'd come too far to turn back now. Set course for the sphere. Standard approach. Keep all sensors active. If anything moves, I want to know about it before it gets close. The ship, named the Horizon's Edge, began its approach. As they got closer, the true scale of the sphere became clear. It was enormous beyond comprehension. The entire structure was larger than Earth's orbit around the sun. Panels covered every inch of the inner surface, each one the size of a continent, all designed to catch every photon of light the star produced. "I'm picking up something," Marcus said suddenly. "There's a structure on the outer surface. It looks like a door." Sarah's pulse quickened. "Put it on screen." The image zoomed in. There, among the countless panels and structures, was something different. A rectangular opening, dark and waiting. It was perfectly sized for a ship exactly like theirs. "That's impossible," Yuki whispered. "How could they know our ship dimensions? We designed the Horizon's Edge only 4 years ago." Nobody had an answer. The silence on the bridge was heavy with fear and wonder. "Captain," Marcus said quietly, "that opening wasn't there a minute ago. It just appeared." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The sphere was responding to them. After 5 million years of silence, it was waking up. "Someone wants us to go inside," she said. "Should we?" Marcus asked. Sarah looked at her crew. They'd all volunteered for this mission knowing they might never return home. They'd left Earth to find answers about humanity's place in the universe. Now those answers were waiting in the darkness ahead. "We didn't come this far to turn back now," Sarah said. "Take us in, slowly." The Horizon's Edge moved toward the opening. As they approached, lights began to activate along the walls of the passage. They flickered at first, like old bulbs that hadn't been used in ages, then glowed with a steady blue light. The passage was long and straight, leading deep into the sphere's outer shell. Sarah watched the walls slide past, covered in strange symbols and patterns that might have been writing or decoration or something else entirely. "Captain," Yuki said, her voice tight with excitement, "I'm reading the symbols. The computer is starting to translate them." "How is that possible?" Sarah asked. "I don't know. It's like the symbols are teaching us how to read them. Look at this pattern here. It repeats with slight variations. It's a mathematical sequence. Prime numbers. They're using math as a universal language." Sarah watched as more symbols appeared on Yuki's screen, each one translating into meaning. Simple concepts at first, numbers, directions, then more complex ideas. "What does it say?" Sarah asked. Yuki read from her screen, her voice shaking. "Welcome, humans. We have been waiting. You are late. The others have already arrived. The trial has already begun. Follow the lights if you wish to survive. Ignore them if you wish to join the billions who came before and failed." The bridge went silent. "Billions?" Marcus whispered. Sarah's mind raced. Other civilizations had found this sphere. Other species had entered this passage, and they had failed some kind of trial. Billions of them. "Captain, we can still turn back," Marcus said. "We don't know what we're flying into." Sarah looked at the blue lights leading deeper into the sphere. Somewhere ahead were answers. Answers about who built this impossible structure. Answers about what happened to the other civilizations. Answers about what test could kill billions of beings. But mixed with those answers was danger. Real deadly danger, the kind that had wiped out entire species. "Keep going," Sarah ordered. "But battle stations, shields up, weapons ready, whatever's in there, we're going to be ready for it." The ship moved deeper into the passage. The blue lights continued to guide them forward. After 10 minutes of travel, the passage opened into a massive chamber. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The chamber was filled with ships. Hundreds of them, thousands, all different designs. All alien, all dead and dark and silent. "My God," Marcus whispered. "They're all here, all the others who came before us." And at the center of the chamber, something was powering up. A light was growing brighter. A voice began to speak, transmitted directly into their minds. "Welcome, humanity. The final test begins now." The warning, the voice in their heads, was not sound. It was something deeper, more fundamental, like a thought that wasn't their own, but somehow belonged there anyway. "What is this?" Sarah demanded, though she wasn't sure if speaking would help. "What test? What do you want from us?" The light at the center of the chamber pulsed once, twice, 3 times. Then the voice returned, calm and ancient and tired. "I am the Keeper. I am the last remnant of the Builders. For 5 million years I have waited here, testing every species that discovers this sphere. You are the 3,000th civilization to enter this chamber." Sarah's crew exchanged nervous glances. 3,000 civilizations. The chamber held maybe 1,000 dead ships, which meant some had passed the test and left, or they'd been destroyed so completely that nothing remained. "What kind of test?" Sarah asked. "And why? What gives you the right to judge entire civilizations? The right of those who built this sphere. The right of those who harnessed the power of a star. The right of those who learned the great secret and chose to protect all younger species from it." Yuki stepped forward. "The secret? What secret? Is that why you built the Dyson Sphere? To hide something?" The light pulsed again, and suddenly the walls of the chamber became transparent. Beyond them they could see the inner surface of the sphere. And there, floating in orbit around the star itself, was another structure. It was small compared to the sphere, maybe only the size of a large asteroid. But it glowed with an eerie green light that seemed wrong somehow, like looking at a color that shouldn't exist. "That is the secret," the Keeper said. "That is the reason for everything. That is why your species must be tested before you are allowed to leave." Marcus ran a scan on the green structure. His face went pale. "Captain, the readings don't make sense. That thing is putting out energy levels that are impossible. If those numbers are right, that single object contains more power than 100 supernovas." "Correct," the Keeper said. "It is a singularity engine. The ultimate power source, the ultimate weapon, the ultimate door to realities that should remain closed." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "A weapon? You built a weapon inside a Dyson Sphere. We did not build it as a weapon. We built it to power our civilization's greatest achievement. We built it to open doorways between dimensions. We built it to explore the infinite possibilities of existence." "What happened?" Yuki asked quietly. The Keeper's light dimmed. When it spoke again, the voice carried a weight of sorrow that was almost unbearable. "We opened a door we could not close. We looked into dimensions where the laws of physics were different, where consciousness itself operated on principles we could not understand, where things existed that should not exist." "What things?" Sarah asked, though part of her didn't want to know the answer. Entities, beings, made of pure mathematical probability, creatures that existed, in states between life and death, intelligences. So vast and alien that merely perceiving them drove our scientists mad, and something worse, something that saw us looking through the door and decided to look back. The chamber grew cold. Sarah noticed her crew hugging themselves, though the ship's environmental systems showed normal temperature. "The sphere," Marcus said slowly. "You didn't build it just to capture the star's energy. You built it as a prison, to contain that thing, correct, when we realized what we had done. We built this sphere in desperation. We sealed the singularity engine inside. We surrounded it with layers of reality-hardening fields. We created me, an artificial intelligence designed to last forever, to guard this place and ensure the engine is never used again." "And the other civilizations?" Yuki asked. "The 3,000 species who came before us. Each one discovered the sphere, each one entered out of curiosity, and each one had to be tested to ensure they would not try to claim the engine for themselves. Some species passed the test. They understood the danger and left peacefully. Some failed. They tried to take the engine, to use its power for conquest or exploration or simple greed. Those species are now in the ships you see around you." Sarah looked at the dead alien vessels surrounding them. Thousands of ships, thousands of crews, billions of beings who had died because they wanted power they couldn't control. "And the test?" she asked. "What exactly do we have to do?" "The test is simple," the keeper said. "I will offer you the power of the singularity engine. I will show you what it can do. I will demonstrate how it could solve every problem your species faces. Unlimited energy, unlimited resources, unlimited knowledge. I will make the offer as tempting as possible." The keeper paused. "And then you must refuse. That's it," Marcus said. "We just say no and we can leave." If it were that simple, more species would have survived. The challenge is not in refusing once. The challenge is in refusing when you see what you are refusing, when you understand what your species could become with this power, when you calculate how many lives could be saved, how much suffering could be prevented, how much knowledge could be gained. Sarah began to understand. "You're going to show us everything we could have, everything we could be, and then you're going to ask us to walk away from it." Yes, and most species cannot. Most species see the power and convince themselves they will be different, they will be wise, they will be careful, they will control the engine instead of letting it control them. "What happens if we fail?" Sarah asked. "Your ship will join the others. Your species will be marked as too dangerous to contact. And when humanity develops faster than light travel and begins to explore the galaxy in earnest, automated defense systems throughout this sector will activate. Your species will be contained or eliminated before you can threaten others." The crew of the Horizon's Edge looked at each other. The stakes were now clear. This wasn't just about their survival. This was about the survival of every human being in existence. "When does the test begin?" Sarah asked. "It already has." The chamber disappeared. The ship disappeared. The crew disappeared. Sarah was alone in a white void, and a voice whispered in her mind, "Let me show you what you could save." The temptation, the white void rippled like water, and suddenly Sarah wasn't alone anymore. She was standing on Earth. Not the Earth she'd left 3 years ago, but a different Earth, a better Earth. She was in a hospital, watching doctors work with technology that shouldn't exist yet. A little girl was lying on a bed, her body ravaged by cancer. Sarah knew this girl. She'd seen her face in the mission briefings before launch. Emma Rodriguez, age 7. She'd written a letter to the Horizon's Edge crew, telling them she hoped they'd find something amazing in space. She'd died 2 weeks after the ship launched. But in this vision, the doctors were using devices powered by the singularity engine. Sarah could somehow see the energy flowing through the machines, bending reality itself to remove the cancer cell by cell. The tumor vanished. Emma opened her eyes and smiled. "This is what you refused," the keeper's voice said. Emma Rodriguez died in pain. With the engine, she would have lived. The scene changed. Now Sarah was in a drought-stricken region of Africa. People were dying of thirst. Children had swollen bellies. The land was cracked and dead. Then machines appeared, powered by the engine. They pulled water from other dimensions where rain fell constantly. The desert bloomed. The people celebrated. Children laughed and played in rivers that hadn't existed moments before. 5 million people died in the water crisis of 2023, the keeper said. With the engine, none of them would have suffered. Scene after scene flashed before Sarah's eyes. Climate change reversed, diseases cured, hunger eliminated, poverty erased. The engine's power flowing through all of humanity's technology, solving every problem, fixing every mistake. "Stop," Sarah said. "Stop showing me this." "Why? Is it not what you want? Is it not why you became a captain? To help people? To make the universe better?" "You're manipulating me," Sarah said. "You're showing me the best possible outcomes. But you said there was something wrong with the engine. Something dangerous. I only showed you the truth. These outcomes are possible. They are real. They can happen if you take the engine home to Earth." Sarah closed her eyes, trying to think clearly. "Show me the danger. Show me what goes wrong. Are you certain?" Most species refuse to look. They convince themselves the danger is exaggerated. They believe they will be more careful than the builders. "Show me," Sarah demanded. The white void went dark. Sarah was suddenly on a different planet, under a sky she didn't recognize. This civilization was advanced, their cities beautiful and efficient. And they had the engine. She could see it in the center of their capital, glowing with that same eerie green light. At first, everything was perfect. No poverty, no disease, no conflict. The engine provided everything they needed. Then Sarah noticed something wrong. The people were changing. Their eyes held a strange light, the same green as the engine. They moved in perfect synchronization, like parts of a machine. They were still alive, still conscious, but something fundamental had shifted. "The engine does not just provide power," the keeper explained. "It connects to other dimensions, and in those dimensions, there are entities that want to enter ours. They are patient, they whisper, they offer knowledge, they promise even greater power." The civilization Sarah was watching began to build new machines, stranger machines, following instructions from voices only they could hear. They opened portals to other realities. Things came through, things that hurt to look at, things that existed in too many dimensions at once. The civilization fell in 7 days. By the end, nothing remained but empty cities and the distant sound of something laughing in a language that predated sound itself. "This happened to your people?" Sarah asked. "The builders?" "Worse. We had more knowledge. We went deeper. We saw further, and what we saw broke us. The sphere is not just a prison for the engine, it is a tomb for my creators. They are still here, changed into something that is no longer alive, but cannot die. They beg me to end their existence, but I cannot. That is the cruelty of what I am. I can only watch and remember and warn." Sarah felt tears on her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what happened to your people. Do not be sorry. Be wise. Understand what I am offering. The engine can save billions, but it will eventually corrupt trillions. The entities beyond the doors have infinite patience. They will wait generations if necessary. They will whisper to your children's children. Eventually, someone will listen." The dark vision faded. Sarah was back in the white void. "I need to talk to my crew," she said. "Very well." Suddenly Sarah was back on the horizon's edge. Her crew materialized around her, each one looking shaken. They'd all seen their own visions, their own temptations and warnings. Marcus spoke first. "It showed me my brother. He died in the colony ship disaster 5 years ago. With the engine, they could have saved him. Could have saved all 3,000 colonists." Yuki nodded. "It showed me my grandmother. She has Alzheimer's. She doesn't remember me anymore." The engine could fix her brain, restore her memories. One by one, the crew shared what they'd seen. Personal losses, global tragedies, problems that the engine could solve with ease. And then the horrors that would follow. The slow corruption, the whispers from beyond. The transformation into something that used to be human but wasn't anymore. So, what do? Marcus asked. We all know the right answer. We have to refuse. We have to walk away. But how do we go home knowing we left behind the power to save everyone we love? Sarah looked at her crew. These were good people, smart people, people who'd dedicated their lives to helping humanity reach the stars. And now they were being asked to abandon the greatest gift humanity could ever receive. We refuse, Sarah said quietly. Not because it's easy, not because we don't want to help people, but because we're thinking beyond ourselves, beyond our generation, beyond our species. The engine doesn't just offer power, Yuki added. It offers a test, and the test never ends. Every generation would have to be strong enough to resist the whispers. Every leader would have to be wise enough to refuse the promises. For thousands of years, forever. And eventually, Marcus said, someone would fail. Someone would listen, and everything would end. Sarah nodded. Humanity has survived this long by being adaptable, by solving problems with the tools we have, not the tools we wish we had. If we take the engine, we stop growing. We stop learning. We become dependent on power we don't understand from entities we can't control. She looked up at the white void. Keeper, we've made our decision. Show us the choice. The void rippled again, and they were back in the chamber with the dead ships. The Keeper's light pulsed steadily at the center. Very well, I will now make the offer official. Captain Sarah Chen of humanity, I offer you the Singularity Engine. Offer you the power to reshape reality. I offer you the ability to eliminate every form of suffering your species has ever known. The Keeper paused. Do you accept? The sacrifices era took a deep breath. Every instinct screamed at her to say yes, to take the power, to be the hero who brought salvation home to Earth. She thought of Emma Rodriguez and the millions like her. She thought of all the problems humanity faced, war, disease, poverty, climate change. The engine could fix all of it. But she also thought of the empty cities she'd seen in the vision, the people with green light in their eyes, the things that came through the portals, the builders who were trapped somewhere in this sphere, transformed into eternal suffering. Before I answer, Sarah said carefully, I have questions. Ask. You said some species passed the test. What happened to them? Where did they go? They left. They returned to their homeworlds. They shared the story of what they found here, and their civilizations chose to develop slowly, naturally, without shortcuts. Some of them still exist in the galaxy. They have become wise and cautious. They help younger species when they can, but they never offer power. The younger species have not earned. And the species that failed, the ones in these dead ships, they tried to take the engine by force when I would not give it freely. The spheres. Defense systems activated. Their ships were disabled but not destroyed. Their crews were placed in suspended animation. They sleep now, dreaming of the power they wanted but could not have. Marcus stepped forward. They're alive? All of them? Yes. They sleep and will continue to sleep until the heat death of the universe. It is a mercy compared to what would have happened if they had succeeded in claiming the engine. Sarah's mind raced. Billions of beings suspended in time because they couldn't resist temptation. It was a horrible fate, but the Keeper was right. It was better than the alternative. One more question, Sarah said. Why did the builders create you? Why not just destroy the engine? They tried. The engine cannot be destroyed. It is made from folded dimensions, from mathematics made physical. To destroy it would require unmaking the fundamental laws of physics. Instead, they contained it, and they created me to ensure it stays contained forever. But you test new species. You offer them the engine. Why? Why not just send everyone away? The Keeper's light pulsed slowly, because the builders, even in their final moments of sanity, held hope. They believed that perhaps, someday, a species would emerge that was wise enough to use the engine properly. strong enough to resist the whispers, evolved enough, either biologically or culturally, to handle the responsibility. You don't believe that will ever happen, Yuki said. It wasn't a question. In 5 million years, I have tested 3,000 civilizations, only 37 have passed. Those 37 understood what you understand now, that some power is too dangerous to wield. Regardless of the good it could do, they had the wisdom to walk away. Sarah looked at her crew. They all nodded. They were ready. Keeper, Sarah said formally, on behalf of humanity and the crew of the Horizon's Edge, I refuse your offer. We will not take the Singularity engine. We will leave this sphere and return to Earth with only the knowledge we've gained here. We will tell our species what we found, and we will recommend that humanity never returns to this place. Silence filled the chamber. Then slowly, the Keeper's light changed from blue to gold. Humanity has passed the test. You are the 38th species to choose wisdom over power. You may leave freely, and you will not be restricted from exploring the galaxy. More than that, I am authorized to share information with species that pass the test. Information? Sarah asked. The locations of the other 37 species who passed. They have formed a loose alliance, a community of civilizations dedicated to helping younger species develop safely. They can teach you much about navigating the dangers of the galaxy. They can be your friends and mentors. Hope bloomed in Sarah's chest. They hadn't just survived the test. They'd gained entry into a cosmic community of wise species. Humanity wouldn't have to stumble through the darkness alone anymore. There's something else, the Keeper continued. A warning I must share. The entities beyond the doors, the ones that corrupted my builders, they are still trying to enter this dimension. They use the engine as a beacon, but they also search for other ways through, other weak points in reality. What kind of weak points? Marcus asked nervously. Places where consciousness concentrates in unusual ways, artificial intelligences that become too complex. Quantum computers that operate at certain frequencies, experiments with exotic particles. The entities are patient and clever. They will find any crack in reality and try to widen. Hey, so even without the engine, Yuki said, humanity is still at risk? All species are at risk. That is why the Alliance exists, to share knowledge about the entities, to watch for signs of their influence, to help each other seal the cracks before something terrible comes through. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She'd thought this was just about refusing power. She hadn't realized she was signing humanity up for an eternal vigil against cosmic horrors. But looking at her crew, she saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. This was why they'd come to space, not for glory or discovery, but to help, to protect, to ensure humanity's children would inherit a safer universe. We accept, Sarah said. Give us the coordinates of the Alliance. We'll make contact and join the community. One final gift, the Keeper said. Before you leave, I can offer you something small, not the engine, but a fragment of the knowledge the builders discovered before they fell. Medical technology that could extend human lifespans by 200 years. Clean energy systems that could power your civilization without destroying your planet. Agricultural methods that could end hunger forever. Sarah's breath caught. That's incredible. Why didn't you offer this to the other species? I did. This is part of the test. Most species, even those who refuse the engine, cannot resist taking everything else. They think these smaller gifts are safe, and they are, mostly. But they become dependent. They stop developing their own solutions. They wait for the next gift, the next breakthrough, instead of earning it themselves. The trap was subtle but brilliant. Even in refusing the ultimate power, most species couldn't resist a shortcut. We refuse that too, Sarah said, and she could hear the pride in her own voice. Humanity will solve our own problems. We'll take the Alliance's coordinates and their friendship, but nothing more. We'll earn our place in the galaxy the hard way. The Keeper's golden light brightened until it filled the entire chamber. Then you have truly passed the test. Go now. Humans, return to your people, tell them what you found here, and know that the Builders, wherever their consciousness now resides, would be proud of you. The return, the passage out of the sphere, was faster than the journey in. The lights that had guided them to the chamber now guided them out, pulsing in a rhythm that almost seemed celebratory. As the horizon's edge emerged back into normal space, Sarah looked back at the massive structure. The Dyson Sphere hung in space like a monument to ambition and caution in equal measure. It was beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of both what was possible and what should remain impossible. "Captain," Marcus said, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's encoded, but the computer is decrypting it automatically." "I think it's from the Alliance," Sarah nodded. "Put it through." A face appeared on the screen. Not human, but not so alien that they couldn't recognize the intelligence and warmth in its features. The being had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and its skin seemed to shift between blue and purple depending on the angle. "Greetings, Captain Chen," the being said in perfect English. The translation technology was seamless. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Vathix Collective. We received notification from the Keeper that humanity has joined the Alliance. On behalf of the 37 other member species, I welcome you to the community of the wise." "Thank you, Ambassador," Sarah replied. "We're honored to be here, though I'll admit we're still processing everything that happened." Krell's expression shifted in what might have been a smile. "That is normal. Every species goes through this same shock. You enter the sphere seeking knowledge and power. You leave with wisdom and community. It is a difficult trade for young species to understand." "The Keeper mentioned dangers," Sarah said. "Entities that try to break through into our dimension. How bad is it?" "Manageable, as long as we remain vigilant. The Alliance maintains watch stations throughout the galaxy, monitoring for signs of dimensional instability. We share information freely among member species, and most importantly, we help each other resist temptation when new power sources are discovered." "New power sources?" Yuki asked. "You mean there are more things like the Singularity engine?" "Not like it, no. The engine is unique, but there are other dangers. Technologies that seem helpful but carry hidden costs. Discoveries that appear safe but open doors to places better left closed. The universe is full of traps for species too eager to advance." Marcus leaned forward. "So your role, the Alliance's role, is to help species avoid those traps? And to clean up when traps are triggered despite our warnings," Krell said grimly. "Not all species are as wise as humanity. Some refuse our counsel. Some believe they know better. When disaster strikes, we do what we can to contain the damage and save survivors." Sarah felt a chill. "How often does that happen?" "Too often. Perhaps once every century, a civilization somewhere in the galaxy makes a critical mistake. Usually the damage is limited to their own system. Sometimes it spreads. That is when the Alliance must act decisively." "We want to help," Sarah said. "Tell us what humanity can do." Krell's eyes brightened with what might have been approval. "First, return home. Tell your leaders what you found. Make them understand the responsibility that comes with cosmic knowledge. Then begin preparing. The Alliance will send teachers and advisors to help humanity develop safely. In perhaps 50 years, when you are ready, you can contribute ships and personnel to the watch stations." 50 years, Marcus said. "That's a long time. For your species, perhaps. For the Alliance, it is barely a moment. We measure time in millennia, Captain Chen. Patience is the first lesson all young species must learn." The transmission continued for another hour. Krell provided coordinates for Alliance space stations, introduced other ambassadors via subspace communication, and shared basic protocols for diplomatic contact. Each new species that appeared on screen was different, some barely recognizable as living beings, but all shared the same quality: wisdom earned through hard choices. Finally, Krell said, "One last thing, Captain. The Keeper asked me to deliver a message specifically for you." "What message?" Sarah asked. The Builders left recordings, personal messages from the final days before they lost themselves to the engine's influence. The Keeper believes humanity should hear them to understand not just what happened, but how it felt, how even the wisest beings can be corrupted when they believe their intentions are pure. "Send them," Sarah said without hesitation. "Our people need to hear the truth, all of it. They will be transmitted to your ship's database. Use them wisely, Captain Chen. Use them to ensure humanity never forgets the lesson of the sphere." The transmission ended. The horizon's edge was alone again in the vast darkness of space, but somehow it felt less empty now. They were part of something larger, something important. "Set course for Earth," Sarah ordered. "Best possible speed. We have a lot to tell them." The journey home took 3 years, the same as the journey out. But it felt different now. The crew spent the time preparing their report, reviewing the Keeper's data, watching the Builder recordings. The recordings were heartbreaking. Brilliant scientists realizing too late that they'd been manipulated. Leaders trying desperately to close the doors they'd opened. Parents saying goodbye to their children as they felt their minds slipping away. The recordings ended with a single message, recorded by someone who identified themselves as the lead builder. Their voice was broken, struggling to maintain coherence as the engine's influence consumed them. "If anyone finds this," the lead builder said, "know that we thought we were helping. We thought we could control it. We thought our intentions would protect us. We were wrong. Please, whoever you are, whatever you are, learn from our mistake. Some doors should stay closed. Some questions should remain unanswered. Some power should be refused, no matter how much good it could do. Wisdom is knowing when to stop reaching. We did not have that wisdom. I pray you do." The message ended there. Sarah watched it alone in her quarters on the final night before reaching Earth. She cried for people who'd been dust for 5 million years. She cried for the billions in the suspended ships who'd failed the test. She cried for the weight of responsibility that now rested on her shoulders, but she also felt something else. Pride, hope, determination. Humanity had passed the test. They'd chosen wisdom over power. They'd earned their place among the stars not by being the strongest or the smartest, but by being wise enough to know their own limits. The horizon's edge emerged from faster-than-light travel within sight of Earth. The blue and green world hung in space like a jewel, beautiful and fragile and precious. "Home, Captain," Marcus said. "Earth Central is hailing us. They're asking for our mission report." Sarah took a deep breath. "Tell them we found something important. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the universe." "And what did we find?" Marcus asked with a slight smile. He knew the answer, but he wanted to hear her say it. "We found a test," Sarah said, "and we passed. Now the real work begins." 10 years after the Horizon's Edge returned to Earth, Captain Sarah Chen stood before the United Nations Assembly. She'd given this speech hundreds of times in the past decade, but it never got easier. "The Dyson Sphere remains out there," she told the gathered leaders. "The Singularity engine remains sealed inside it, and the temptation remains as strong as ever. Every year I receive requests from scientists, from corporations, from governments, asking permission to return. Asking to study the engine from a safe distance. Asking if maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to use it safely. And every year I say no, because I watch the Builder recordings. I saw what happens when a species believes they're special, when they think they'll be different, when they convince themselves that good intentions are enough to protect them from corruption." She paused, looking out at the faces watching her. "The Alliance has taught us much in these 10 years. We've learned technologies that have extended human lifespans by 50 years. We've learned clean energy systems that have reversed climate change. We've learned agricultural methods that have eliminated hunger in most regions of Earth. All of this without shortcuts. All of this through hard work and patience and earning our place in the galactic community. But more importantly, we've learned wisdom. We've learned that there are limits to growth, boundaries that should not be crossed, prices too high to pay no matter the reward." A hand raised in the audience. A young delegate from the Pacific Federation. "Captain Chen, what about the ships? The ones with the sleeping crews? Does the Alliance have any plans to try to wake them?" Sarah had been asked this question before. "The Keeper has determined it's too dangerous. The crews failed the test because their minds were too focused on claiming power. If awakened, they would immediately try again and again, until they succeeded or were permanently stopped. The most merciful option is to let them sleep and dream. Perhaps millions of years from now, they'll wake to a universe that has evolved beyond the temptations that trapped them. Another question. What about humanity? Will we stay in the Alliance forever? That's up to all of you, Sarah said. The Alliance has no requirements except one: don't seek power you can't control. Beyond that, we're free to develop as we choose. Some species remain close partners with the Alliance for millions of years. Others drift away as they mature, pursuing their own paths while maintaining friendly relations. There's no wrong choice as long as we stay wise. The session ended. Sarah walked out of the assembly hall and into the bright sunlight. Her ship, a new exploration vessel provided by the Alliance, waited at the spaceport. There was still so much galaxy to explore, so many species to meet, so many dangers to watch for. But for the first time in human history, they weren't exploring alone. They had teachers, they had friends, they had allies who had walked this path before and could guide them through the darkness. Sarah thought about Emma Rodriguez, the little girl who'd written her a letter before she died. Emma's letter was framed in Sarah's quarters, a reminder of why she'd made the choice she did. The engine could have saved Emma, but it would have doomed Emma's children and their children for generations uncounted. It was the right choice. It would always be the right choice. Sarah looked up at the sky, thinking of the Dyson Sphere somewhere beyond the stars. The monument to ambition, the warning, the test, and she smiled, knowing that humanity had passed. Some power is worth refusing, she whispered to herself. Some doors are worth keeping closed. Then she boarded her ship and flew toward the stars, toward new adventures, toward a future humanity had earned the right to explore. The story of the sphere would be told for generations. Children would learn about Captain Sarah Chen and the crew of the Horizon's Edge. They would learn about the choice that defined humanity's entry into the galactic community, and they would learn the most important lesson of all, that true strength isn't measured by the power you claim, but by the power you're wise enough to refuse. The end. Why humanity survived. The Keeper continued to watch the galaxy as it had for 5 million years. Humanity's ships now joined the Alliance patrols, young and eager and still learning. But they were learning fast, and more importantly, they were learning the right lessons. In its vast database, the Keeper updated humanity's file. Species, human test result, passed. Notable characteristics: strong emotional bonds, capacity for self-sacrifice, ability to think beyond immediate gratification, resistant to temptation when consequences are clearly understood. Assessment: this species shows great promise. Recommend close monitoring and support. Potential future leaders of the Alliance. Final note: they chose wisely. They chose to protect their future over improving their present. This is the mark of a species that will survive and thrive among the stars. The Keeper dimmed its light, satisfied. Another species had joined the community of the wise. The galaxy was a little bit safer. The darkness was held back for another generation, and somewhere in the depths of the sphere, in the sealed chamber where the singularity engine pulsed with eerie green light, the entities from beyond the doors whispered and plotted and waited. They had infinite patience. They would try again. But for now, humanity was safe. For now, wisdom had prevailed, and that, the Keeper knew, was all anyone could ask for in an infinite and dangerous universe.